in a way, I wanted to kind of just go quietly and just kind of figure this out for myself and settle the questions I had within me. And as I was saying, I mean, I was kind of in my mind, I thought to myself, I'm going to give this 3 years and do a degree in Maynooth, and then from there, I'll kind of make a call on whether to kind of continue or to step away and step aside to maybe to pursue something else. It's a gift that not everyone has, but it's at the same time something we can all at least be open to and explore in a way that's meaningful, that's deeply personal to us. Hi, I'm Father Ronan Sheehan. I'm a curate here in the Ballincollig, Ballinora and Ovens Farran family of parishes. I've been here since October. I was just ordained a priest in September 2022. So I'm still kind of settling in, learning the ropes. At the moment, I'm the youngest priest in Ireland, but not for long, hopefully. I think there's a few more coming after me. So faith was kind of very present, I suppose. It's kind of well integrated into our lives growing up in our household and in both sides of my family. And so, like naturally, like with a lot of Irish households, you know, the major sacramental moments were kind of stand out, and they were given great importance: baptisms, first communions, confirmations. So there was always an aura of Catholicism in our lives, in our house. We just kind of took it for granted that this was the case for it. But I wouldn't say that we were, I mean, some people think you must be a very, very religious household in order to produce a priest. But I wouldn't say ours was particularly so. I mean, most of my kind of prayer life as a child was learned at school. I suppose from a very early age, I remember when I was 8, making my first Holy Communion and kind of being in awe of a very kind of influential parish priest. He was quite an elderly man at the time, close to retirement, but he had something kind of serene, something holy about him, something kind of that would inspire you quietly. And but then after him, another parish priest came, and he was quite very different, but also kind of just as kind of on a more charismatic level. It kind of just appealed to me as a child. So I think that's probably where the first idea to kind of started. In Ireland, we have a school system that's, so most of our schools are Catholic, and that has its challenges, but certainly I was kind of blessed because I was fortunate enough in Bishop Galvin Central School in Newcestown to have wonderful teachers across the board, but also wonderful mentors of faith. And it was a smaller school, relatively speaking, co-ed, and I was blessed remember in first and second class, kind of they're pivotal years, they're very formative years, and they're the years when we make our first confession and first Holy Communion, in Ireland at least. And your school teacher, is your primary kind of catechist in the system that we have. And so there's a lot of kind of responsibility placed on their shoulders. We were blessed. I had a teacher, Mrs. Canty, and she was a wonderful woman of personal faith herself. And that kind of, I don't think we could help but for that to be rubbed off on us. We each of us kind of benefited from her kind of passing on her own sense of faith and the importance of what we were doing. It wasn't just something to be got through or something to be kind of all about us. There was something about why we were doing this, how it mattered, and how it would influence our lives. And you could say, okay, we're only 8 years of age. What will we know exactly? But we're kind of like sponges at that age, and we soaked it up, and I certainly did. I remember her even saying after our first Holy Communion, people often talk about, how much money did you make? And she was trying to encourage us, give some of it away to charity, even if it's just €20. It wasn't something kind of separate. It was all kind of knitted up into the same kind of experience for us, I suppose. So it was, I had 4 sisters as well, so that kind of adds its own dynamic. But I'm blessed. I mean, I was the second eldest, so there was like 3 of us, and then my 2 youngest sisters. So it was a household mostly of women. Myself and my father were kind of outnumbered, but it was a fun household growing up. For the first time, I think I felt a call to priesthood. I was quite young. I was only 8, and it was around the time of my first Holy Communion. I just remember this kind of feeling of awe at this elderly parish priest we had at the time, and this serenity, this holiness that kind of emanated from him. But I mean, as I was saying, that was just like a fleeting kind of thought, and then moved on to the next thing, and the next kind of doctor, solicitor, psychologist, guard, you name it. I mean, it crossed my mind as a child, which I think is a good thing. But then the moment came. It was much later, like in my mid-teens, like 15, 16, and so I started to kind of take more seriously, the promises I made at confirmation, and I thought to myself, like, either I'm kind of going to be in or commit myself or not. I just wasn't happy to be kind of lukewarm, just hanging in there. I just wanted to kind of put 2 feet in or 2 feet out, we'll say. So at that moment, I started to kind of just take my faith more seriously, explore it, read the scriptures, and to pray on my own. I was kind of reading other faith stories, reading some of the lives of the saints. I remember reading a biography of John Paul II, and particularly his early years and his decision to enter seminary. So from there, I started to do more research. I spoke to my parish priest, who was encouraging without pushing me either. But he said, like, this would be great. If this is for you, the Lord will make it clear for you, and the Lord will be with you on that path, that journey of discovery. So in secondary school, I had a good friend of mine, but he was a declared atheist, even in first year of secondary school. And I'm from the countryside where everyone was a believer. Most people went to mass, or if they didn't, they certainly went for the other kind of major moments. So I was kind of taken aback when I was 13, and I met this person who was so clear. He was an atheist, and so it kind of we had. In a way, he was a great person to have discussions with, because he had at least thought about these things, whereas most other guys, I mean, they went to mass every now and then, but they hadn't really put thought into it. And I wasn't happy to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I wanted to plant myself in or out. But I came to the conclusion that, I mean, I couldn't but believe in God. And I know people talk about the faith is a gift, and so for me, I kind of began to understand, like, it's a gift that not everyone has, but it's at the same time something we can all be open to and explore in a way that's meaningful, that's deeply personal to us. So, like everyone in secondary school, I mean, as you come towards the end of secondary school, you're applying for the CAO, and everyone is kind of your career guidance classes. Everyone is kind of on this boat of, what are you going to do? What are you going to study? And it can be a lot of pressure on someone to kind of decide. For me, I kind of had an openness and a pretty strong conviction. I mean, I can't say. At 18, I was determined I was going to be a priest, and that was it. I was determined to figure this out, and I had a kind of an openness, and I had an openness to being wrong about it as well, which I think is important too when you're setting out on that journey. So I applied to the diocese, and I spoke with the vocations director. I did some interviews, some psychological assessments, and filled out application forms. And I kept putting more and more thought into it. I mean, I could have backed out at any point in theory, but the more I went with it, the more convinced I kind of felt around it. And I wasn't sharing it too publicly because I didn't want to kind of say I was going to seminary and then kind of back out or anything. So I didn't tell people until the summer, the few weeks before I went to seminary. And in a way, I wanted to kind of just go quietly and just kind of figure this out for myself, settle the questions I had within me. And as I was saying, I mean, I was kind of in my mind, I thought to myself, I'm going to give this 3 years and do a degree in Maynooth. And then from there, I'll kind of make a call on whether to kind of continue or to step away and step aside to maybe to pursue something else. So the time came after my leaving cert that I told everyone I was going to seminary, and so it was announced at a weekend mass in my home parish, and I mean I was kind of a bit embarrassed at the time, but the flip side to that was that I was inundated with just well-wishers, just nothing but warmth and love and kindness, and people being very generous. And also reminding me, you know, if it's not for you, don't be one bit afraid to come right home with your head held high. And that, for me, was kind of were words of great comfort, because there can be kind of a lot of, because it's not too common these days, there can be kind of a lot of maybe pressure around it, or a lot of notoriety, because it's a novelty, really. So I must say I love seminary. I mean, I did go to an all-boys school, and but my home life was quite. I lived with 4 sisters and my parents, so it was the first time I was able to live away from home. And the first time I had kind of lived with peers, you know, in and around my own age. So I liked it, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed there was a little bit of independence, because for the first time I was kind of like striking out on my own. Truth be told, living in seminary is like a lot of your needs are kind of provided for. You get 3 meals put in front of you every day. You have your own kind of room. So in fairness, as far as kind of college experiences go, we were well seen after. So first of all, I went to Maynooth University, and I did a degree in philosophy and Latin and Irish in my first year. And I enjoyed that, I enjoyed the experience. It was a good kind of, I was living in seminary, but a student at the kind of, we'll say, the secular university. So, and I made some friends there. It was one of the challenges is that every evening in seminary you had, you know, evening prayer, the rosary, we had dinner together. So you weren't as free to go to kind of clubs and socks events. But, you know, there was still overall good support systems in the seminary, and we're close to Dublin, you know, you go for a walk, play some sport, go to the gym. There were a lot of kind of, this whole new world opened up for me. So I started theology then after that, and in the world of theology, I liked philosophy, but it wouldn't be my favorite kind of subject, despite its importance. But for me, I really took to theology, and I loved studying, you know, the Gospel of Mark, the Pentateuch, and kind of immersing myself in sacramental theology. It was kind of like, this is what I was meant to be doing, you know, and it's the stuff that we would be discussing and talking about. And with my theology degree, which I was quite pleased about, I think there's a copy of my degree cert there somewhere in the house. And from there I came back to Cork, and I was ordained a deacon. So you're usually ordained a deacon either 6 to 12 months before ordination to the priesthood. And at that point, you become kind of a cleric. You make the promises of celibacy, obedience, and to pray faithfully, the liturgy of the hours, etc. And I was in a really nice parish in the south side of Cork City, and it was a great place working with a wise parish priest, and it was a great place to kind of ground myself back into the diocese as a member of the diocese. And I was only there for 4 months, and from there I went to Canada, which was an unusual experience. One priest joked that it was like finishing school, but it was kind of like starting school, because I learned a lot of new things over there in St. Benedict Parish in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where this whole where divine renovation started under Father James Mallon. So I was really blessed there. A very different experience of church, but one that the principles of which we can model here. And so I came back from there and got straight into planning my ordination, and that took place in September 18th, 2022. The date is etched on my mind, and forever will be. And it was a great day. Some committed parishioners who were very competent people of faith, and with their help, they helped me to plan the ordination. And not to boast, but one person called it the event of the decade, at least in Newcestown. It was a great day. The parish came out in force, and it was just a fruitful day, a blessed day for the church. So it's good to have kind of hobbies or kind of interests that take you outside of the parish as well. Or else your life can kind of become quite insulated. You're just going from one weekend to the next, one funeral to the next, and you're not adding anything new into the mix. I'm lucky because I live close to home, so I can kind of call home to see my family quite a bit. So that's another kind of source of, in a sense, distraction, but kind of like just a healthy outlet for me. I do go to the gym, and probably spend most of the time in the leisure kind of part of it, in the steam room and sauna, and outside there's a heated pool in the facility. So it's quite nice to kind of unwind there. So at the moment I'm the youngest priest in Ireland, and thankfully very soon during the summer I'll be knocked off that particular throne by I think there's 2 ordinations coming up this summer, and they're both younger than me, thankfully. So I won't be the only priest in his 20s for very long. But I'm very glad, but they're for different dioceses. And look, I can see, I can even see the hope, the kind of the rejuvenation, literally, that having a young priest in our parishes brings to people's faith, their sense of hope for the future of the church, their sense of esteem, that there's still a future in this. There's never an easy time to be a priest, I think, in the history of the church. There's always different challenges kind of emerging, but in another way, it's a very exciting time, because we're on the cusp of kind of change in how we do things. And so what I would be saying to young men out there who are thinking or considering priesthood is to just to open your hearts, look to Jesus, ask yourself, God has a plan for you, has some mission for you in mind, and to ask yourself, could that plan, could that mission involve me being a priest? The question we were always asked in seminary was, can I be me and can I be a priest at the same time? Because if you can only be one of those, then it's not going to really work out. It's not going to fit. But our ideal is that we would be ourselves and be a priest, and that we, as kind of ministers of Jesus Christ, that we would bring ourselves as into our ministry. So I love actually being a younger priest. I mean, I have grey hairs coming on my head already, but So I won't always have that kind of, that sheen to me forever. But at the moment I kind of enjoy it because maybe, especially when some people are used to experiencing older priests, and suddenly you emerge from the sacristy, or they turn a corner and they meet you and they say, they're kind of taken aback. So it might get them thinking that, gosh, someone actually younger than me has become a priest, and what does that kind of mean? What does that turn up for them? So there's kind of, sometimes I relish it. I did a funeral recently, and the lady doing the music came into the sacristy, and she was kind of stunned for a little while, and she was kind of asking, where's the priest? And I said, well, it's me. On Farog, she said. So I kind of relish that. But, you know, I mean, I get older day by day, you know, and so I enjoy those moments. But mainly, I do hope that at least maybe seeing someone who is a peer or someone who is on the younger side might kind of encourage someone that this isn't a dying profession, as some have termed it. We might be fewer in number, but we're still there. But at the same time, you have to be prepared for a certain amount of isolation. You have to have healthy outlets. You have to have good support systems in place. So it's important to have good friends, to cultivate good habits. And if you're not praying, then I think very quickly you're going to kind of lose sight of what you're about. You just become a kind of a bachelor, and the meaning of celibacy becomes less clear. I mean, it's what's it really about then in that case. At the same time, you have to kind of be comfortable with yourself and your own company, that at the end of a long day, you come back to a house on your own. And some days I'm thinking, thank God I can just have some kind of time for myself, or time to dedicate to prayer. Other times you kind of think, gosh, wouldn't it be nice if there was someone around I could go to the pub with, or go to the cinema with. But in those cases, that's where you have good contacts, good friends, and you pick up the phone. I was in Canada for 6 months. I didn't know anyone there, and I found it quite an isolating experience, even though I lived with 2 other priests. But I didn't know them, and I didn't know anyone else there. But through the power of WhatsApp video calls and audio calls, I was able to kind of keep a healthy level of friendship, of contact up with others. So I would say, yeah, I mean, good habits, good friends, and a good prayer life are kind of what makes for a healthy kind of priestly life, even whether you're on your own or living in small communities.
My life is a miracle. Every child has a story of God's love to share. Shalom world, tune into God's love story.